With the recent news that the final Evangelion movie will be coming out this summer, I thought it appropriate to finally review an Evangelion figure. Now, I've had this one for a while, but I do rather like it, so today's figure will be Asuka Langley Shikinami, the Jersey version from Evangelion 3.0. You cannot redo. This is an awesome figure. I actually really like this one, and I am not typically the statue type. I am more of a posable figure kind of guy. And while I do have a posable figure of Asuka, mainly the Figma version, I really wanted something else. I wanted something bold, something really expressive and highly detailed, because Asuka is the best girl, of course. Now, these originally sold out, but they eventually did do a rerun of them, and they re-released it so that people could get it, because it seemed like there was a lot of fake ones of this figure floating around online. So do be careful if you do plan to buy this one on eBay. There are plenty of counterfeits of this figure out there, so just be careful. Don't buy this figure from China. Now, I don't know the name Alter from very many other figures, and this one was actually the first I've ever purchased, but of course this is Evangelion officially licensed merchandise, so I trusted it, and for the price tag, it really wasn't so terrible. I'm pretty certain that I originally paid something like $100 for this figure. Give or take, I might be off by about $10 here or there, so it could have been $90 or it could have been $110. I don't quite remember the exact number, but nowadays this figure goes from anywhere from $140 to about $180. It really depends on where you get it, and of course, you're going to be paying a higher amount if you actually get a real one. So, like I said, be careful and buy this from a trusted source. Let's get a little further into the box before we talk any more about the figure itself. The box is really nice. It's actually a double-cased sort of clear plastic where there is some blue accents on the left and right here. There's also a clear piece inside that's actually sandwiching around the figure to hold it in place, but it's incredibly clear, so everything is presented really nicely. It's one big window, and all the text is really clean and plain, so everything is really easy to read. There's really no Japanese text on this, which is another thing that I find incredibly different for a figure like this. There's minimal branding. It has the Evangelion logo and of course Asuka's name on there, but other than that, there's really not much else to say. This is incredibly clean presentation and it gets right to the meat of the figure. It shows you what you're getting, and what you're getting is a lovely piece. So let's bust this thing open. There's actually some instructions in here because there are multiple ways of displaying this figure, but we're not going to need that because it's really simple stuff. She comes with a base that is branded for the Evangelion 3.0 movie. She comes with a single alternate arm, which actually allows her to put her hand in her pocket. There's also an alternate head, which allows her to be displayed with her hat off, which is nice because it's a bit more classic. And finally, the figure itself is her clad in her track jacket and plug suit. And of course, this is the somewhat patchy plug suit from after she is injured. And yeah, I gotta say, this thing is absolutely gorgeous. It very simply plugs in with a couple of pegs that go into the holes on the bottoms of her feet. The hair sculpt may be one of the most impressive things about this figure. It's not done in tons of different strands, but the chunks that are here are nice little individual spikes and decent clusters of the hair that is jumping out to give off that windy look. The coloring is incredibly well done too. There's just enough shading here that is subtle enough to really give off a lot of detail. The way that it's highlighted is just perfect for hair, and I really do like this. It's far more natural, even for something like an anime character, and I can't stop talking about it, so I'm gonna force myself to. The details in the face are great. Her expression just screams Asuka to me. It's this pouty, neutral look, but it's also very judgmental, which of course is incredibly Asuka. The hat looks great. I love all the details on the clothing, especially the track jacket. That really actually sticks out to me because if you can see here, there's a bit of a crease in the shoulder, and that actually is really well done. It looks like it's just part of the seam of the jacket, which is perfect because this is actually part of the design for where you can remove her arm so that you can attach the different arm and make her put both hands in her pockets, and that works really well. Now, of course, the arm that you can take off is actually rather well hidden by her hair. You're really not going to be looking at her from this angle, but yeah, that's actually really well done, and the fact that they used the creasing in the jacket as well as the seam and everything, I think is a really expert way of hiding things. Even small details like the zipper on the jacket are incredibly well done, up to the collar of her jacket as well. Everything here is just incredibly high quality. But other than that, all of the wrinkles and the shading here, it's just gorgeous. Everything looks so natural, especially for an anime character. You expect far more brighter tones, and it actually works really well even with the incredibly bright plug suit. Now, one thing we have to address is Asuka's butt. It's a great butt, I guess, but that's not why I'm into Asuka. She's 14 years old. Everybody calm down. The sculpting here is great on her legs. They're long and slender, and they're incredibly shapely. They're not very simple shapes. They're not just two cylinders going down. She has very feminine legs. And while I don't think that's incredibly important, I do appreciate that bit of detail. This figure gives off far more realism than a normal anime character, which I really do like because the overall tone of it is very somber and serious. Especially the detail on her hat. Here with the two little buttons on top of her hat, that's incredibly clean. If you get in close, these are pretty small buttons and they look perfect. And hilariously enough, I actually own the hat and the buttons that are on that hat. I also have an officially licensed replica of her eye patch. Another amazing detail is this incredibly ugly bit of patching on her plug suit. It looks like duct tape, and the textures and colors, everything here blends so well with the actual shiny red of her suit to create a really realistic effect. Her legs overall are incredibly well detailed. There's a bit of trim inside of her plug suit here, as well as with the shading and other details of it and the shine. Everything just works so well, and it helps to create a high level of quality. And when you put her on her included stand, she looks even better, and it really helps her to shine when you put her on a shelf or maybe even on your desk. But just as great as she looks with that hat menacingly staring at you as she flips the bill of it, we can actually customize this just a tiny bit. The first step would be to, of course, remove her head. Then you can remove her arm. The fittings are incredibly secure, but just snug enough so that you can actually get them out by hand. Now, I would like to plug her arm in first because it actually just plugs into her pocket. And now the last step is to plug in her head. Again, this is all incredibly easy and it opens up the figure for more display possibilities, and I've always loved that. When you can create this seamless transition with something like a statue, I'm rather impressed. And really, she just looks great on that stand with either the hat on or the hat off. It's kind of hard to decide. Now, of course, she looks more movie accurate with the jacket and hat on, but the typical red little clips in her hair are the ones that I typically favor. Getting to see all that red hair flowing out is a great image. All in all, I really love this figure. I'm a huge Asuka fan, so this thing was just right up my alley. It does a lot to capture her design really well, but additionally it even captures her character in some way. Her personality is even shown somewhat through her expressive, passive-aggressive look that's on her face to the way that she's posturing her body. The more attractive parts of her design are still kept intact without making this figure overly fan-servicey. That's one thing I really do appreciate. I hate the way that this is going to come off, but I hate the over-sexualization in anime merchandise. I'm not the kind of guy that buys fan service figures that are incredibly embarrassing to have around your family. Asuka here just looks appropriate, and it still keeps everything true to the character while still being attractive to onlookers. The sculpt, the coloring, everything about this just screams quality. Anybody that passes this figure will know that it's definitely worth a bit of money because it is incredibly high quality and incredibly nice to look at. I love the variation in materials from the shiny parts to the more matted parts. Everything here just works so well, and having customization options make this statue so much more than just a regular static figure. I may be a bit biased because I love Asuka, but all in all, I think this was a great figure, and if anything, I'm going to have to give it a 9 out of 10. It really just was that great to me, so I can't complain. But with all that said, what do you think? Do you agree with my opinion or not? Drop a comment below and let me know. And if you did like this video, make sure to like it. It does help me out. Another thing that really helps is if you click the linked video I'm going to put on the screen, and make sure to subscribe because I'm always making new figure reviews every week. I want to thank you so much for watching. Make sure that you get in the robot, Shinji. Have an amazing weekend and keep on collecting.